This is the I Shoulda Did More Reading podcast. I Shoulda Did More Reading. You can find us at IShouldaDidMoreReading.com. I broke it last week. I was a web savvy guy years ago, maybe decades ago, and I screwed this thing up. So if it's not working, just find us on Facebook or YouTube or iTunes or whatever. Just put in I Shoulda Did More Reading. Mostly Facebook is a good place to start if you don't find it. This is Tom. I'm with Jay here.
Good day.
Yeah, we missed you last week.
Well, thank
Jay.
you. Jeez.
And I am thrilled to introduce a friend and a funny bastard and a guy who's made some great and fascinating choices in his life, Paul D'Angelo. Paul, how you doing?
Thrilled. You're thrilled?
I am thrilled.
Well,
You're one of
we have an exciting life. You have. Thrilled to have me here.
Paul is a comedian. You can find him at pdangelo.com. That's pdangelo.com. And you're always working up here in Boston and Saugus in Massachusetts.
Well, I'm based out of Boston. So But I'm always around here. Yeah.
But and how long have you been in comedy?
A little over 30 years now.
Wow.
A little over 30 years, yeah.
So I want to get right into it. I know that this is the story that you tell, 300 times a year. You started out as a lawyer, right? Well, first of all, you're from Wakefield, Massachusetts.
Wakefield, Mass, yes.
Were you a funny kid?
You know what? I come from a funny family. Mm-hmm. My father used to wake me up to watch all the comedians on the Ed Sullivan Show. My uncle, I stole his Bill Cosby albums, but they were both fun. I lived in this house that was my Italian Uncle Vito, my Italian grandparents, my mother spoke Italian. Everybody. I grew up in the Italian neighborhood. And my uncle who lived with us, who was a bachelor, he was like the Roberto Benigni, high energy and would tell stories, real stories, like about the Italian aunt with the mustache that's better than mine and everything, the black dress, somebody died in the 50s. My father was an Irishman and like a Benny Hill type. He would tell jokes. A Patty and so-and-so go in the bar and everything like that. So between the two of them, I used to watch them entertain people around the table. And I said, wow, what a great thing to make people laugh like that. And I was funny with my friends but never dreamed of doing it on stage, ever.
Now I see the connection between, because your real last name is Murphy, right?
Yeah.
So you wanted to...
Everything in my life was Italian, you know what, except for my last name. So that was the excuse du jour from my friends when I was at Boston College of why we weren't getting laid. So because you got to, you speak Italian, you look like Mario Brothers, you can talk about your Uncle Vito, then you say your last name is Murphy, and that's why the girls think we're all liars, because we're going to call you Angelo. So that was it was Angelo they used to call him. They'd call my house, is Angelo there? My mom go, who the hell is he? There's no Angelo. No, I think his name's Paul. We just call him Angelo. So when I first did comedy, the first time I ever did it, I said, I bet I was an assistant DA. So I was like not to demean him, but I was like the Jackie Robinson of prosecutors becoming comedians. So I don't know if they'll accept this. So I said, I'll use a different name. I'll be Angelo. I go, no, that's too. Somebody will call, hey, Angelo, I won't turn around. So I got to have the Paul. I'll be Paul D'Angelo. I'm only doing this once, right? I'm doing it. I'm dabbling, I'm just doing it. And then, in fact, my mother, who found out I did it that night, I'm glad you got that out of your system. Those were her encouraging words. And now, 8,000 shows later, 30 years later, but the name just stuck. And I'd be doing a show, and the waitress would come over to me. She goes, I just want you to know that the guy at the next table, I heard him say, that looks like the guy who sent me to prison, but that guy was Irish, and this guy's Italian. Must not be the same guy. So, geez, I better keep the two names separate. So I signed the check. Paul D'Angelo paid to the order of Paul Murphy. It's weird. Yeah.
So let's tell that story. I know you've told it forever. So you go to Wakefield High? Did you go to Catholic school?
Wakefield High, yeah.
Wakefield High.
I watched my school burn down. We had an arsonist in 1972, I think it was, and he burnt down this big industrial center. Some of the biggest fires you've ever seen. I think he was an ex-cop or something like that, too. It was a funny thing. But I watched my high school burn down, and it was the greatest night of my life until I realized I was going to be on double sessions for the next 2.5 years. It was just a horrible situation. But that night was wonderful. Look at that. There you go. There's my room, my homeroom. Oh, it was wonderful, yeah.
But were you a good student?
You know what? When it became double sessions. You know what? I had the ADD back then, everything like that. In fact, there was one kid, I'll be honest with you. There was one kid, skinny, scrawny kid, used to get beat up all the time, and I protected him. He was so scrawny, I called him Killer. That was his nickname. And he got me through chemistry. I mean, I was in 2 years advanced math, but once they started getting all abstract and everything, my brain, okay, I'll never use this. Whatever I'm going to do in my life, I'm never going to, I shut my brain off, and I cheated off. Yeah, that's how I got through some of those classes, because that's what I talk about when I talk about careers, and sometimes a kid, sometimes you have an aptitude for something. It's not that he can't do it. Maybe he doesn't have a passion for a certain thing. And I didn't have, okay, this is, whatever I do in my life, whatever my career is going to be, I'm not going to be using the square root of X over B or what, so. I didn't get a great education in high school, but I did well enough. So I went to BC, and my father went to Holy Cross. My father was the defensive captain, football star at Holy Cross. Who had tryouts with the Philadelphia Eagles and the Packers and everything like that. Everything in my life was purple and white from Holy Cross. So I said to Dad, I'm going to BC because I wanted to go to school of management, because I said I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm going to be a corporate lawyer. So not knowing
that's pretty lofty, Paul.
Oh, I just wanted to please my Italian mother. I could never please I could be elected president of the United States. I used to say, my mother, her friends would be going, you must be so proud of your son, Paul. He's the president of the most powerful country in the whole world. And my mother go, yeah, but he's no Abe Lincoln, right? So I could never please her. So when I told my father I was going to Boston College, he was devastated, and he said to me, he's ex-Marine, Golden Gloves box, ex-Marine, put his finger in my face, says, all right, you can go to Boston College, but if you don't get straight A's, I'm going to pull your backside out of there so fast you'll be digging ditches the rest of your life.
Jesus.
So I get to BC, and if my friends are going to a keg party, Paul, you coming with us? Nah, I got to study. I don't want to let my dad down. Boy. And I ended up graduating the top 3% of my class at Boston College. It's like Phi Beta Kappa was Beta Gamma Sigma for School of Management. I was top 3% of my class. Can't even balance my checkbook now. and I'm going to be a corporate lawyer. That sounds so cool, because my mother will be happy. Yeah. And then I realized that's the most boring job in the world, And I ended up at the district attorney's office.
So you went to Suffolk Law.
Suffolk Law, yeah. Boston College, School of Management, Suffolk Law. Went to work. I said, well, you know what? I like talking to people. I like being in front of people and stuff. I want to be a trial attorney. So I went to work at the DA's. I worked for 2 years in the 3 years in the DA's office. They paid. I was getting $18,000 a year. I couldn't even cover my bar tab back in those days. No, really. I would bartend. I am an artist. I would draw logos for companies. I would do. My car would get hit. I'd collect the money just to get by every month. And,
that would be a good thing if your car got hit.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. And I had a car. It looked like a demolition derby car. I had the hood was held down with the rope and everything. It was every part of the car was smashed. And so I would work there a couple of years, Like I used to say, a lot of DAs leave for higher paying jobs like picking lettuce in New Mexico or baking in Calcutta and stuff. So at the time, I started going to see live comedy, and I loved.
This was in Boston.
In Boston, yeah, the old Comedy Connection on Warrington Street was down the street from Nick's, and I used to go there. And wow, Stephen Wright, this guy's brilliant. I love him. So now I'm just a spectator, And my best friend from college, and still my best friend, he had a bachelor party, but he was. He's a rich kid. He had a bachelor party, not a typical bachelor party. It's dinner, and we're going to roast him. But everybody's waiting for me. So obviously, I must have been funny at the time. I wrote for weeks. Put together a 45-minute show. Got hammered on scotch right before. And when it got up there for 45, 50 minutes, people cry and laugh. And I wrote all this stuff. We want to hire you. I go, no, this is a one-time thing. And now I start going back to the comedy clubs. But now instead of just being a passive spectator, I'm a critic. I'm going, wait, this guy's not that funny. I can be funny. I start writing things down. Now I'm not worried about my stage presence. I've done 100 trials in front of judges and juries now. Yeah. When you've had a judge yell at you in front of a crowded courtroom and a jury and stuff, no heckler's going to bother you, right? So
indeed.
I'm just going to make sure I have 20, 25 minutes of material before I get on stage to do 5. So I literally filled up legal pads and things and like you wouldn't believe, passion, writing things down, writing before I ever got on stage for the first time. And I waited a year to get on stage. So I got on stage for the first time. They literally had the guy came up, Mike McDonald, he was a friend of mine.
Mike McDonald? Huh? The comedian Mike McDonald?
Yeah, there's a Mike McDonald from Canada who died this year, but that's a different Mike McDonald. Yeah, I got a bunch of calls. Your buddy died. No, there's a different Mike McDonald who died. He literally had to come on stage and pull me by the arm to take me off the stage. It's the old Stitches on Comm Ave near BU. I only did about a dozen shows.
What was the crowd reaction that first night?
I didn't want to get off the stage. It was it was just like instant, like, this is great. Yeah. In fact, they asked me to do, they called the Boston Comedy Riot, and it was, you were invited to be in this thing. It was all comedians, and they took me aside and said to me, I just want you to know right now, you're not going to win. You've only done like 10 shows. These people have been doing it for years. Yeah. And they've paid their dues. You haven't paid your dues.
Yeah, but I saw that you purposely waited for a couple of years to get your material perfect before you even stepped foot on stage.
Yeah, because I could not. Jay, I'll tell you why. Because I couldn't afford to fail.
Yeah,
because if you look at the curve of every comedian, the learning experience, you got to suck for a while before you get good. I couldn't have that luxury because people go, "What the hell is wrong with you? You're such a good lawyer." Because people say, "Oh, you're lucky because you're a good comedian, you're a good lawyer." And I wish I was lousy at one of them. It would have made the choice easier. But
do you ever mix it up? Say, "May I approach the wench" or something like that when you're like,
I used to get it all the time. They used to bang the gavel. This is not a comedy club.
It's a well-hung jury.
You're funnier than I am. But
what did your dad say about this? Was he alive?
I think my mom.
Is he alive?
My dad was alive, and I think, looking back, I think secretly that he envied the fact that I did, because he was such. I mean, he would be the guy that would go to. They'd ask him to speak at something because he'd be so funny, and he'd go to his class reunion and he'd get up at the microphone and he'd tell jokes and things. So I think part of him, but he never showed me that. But because maybe you got to be a lawyer. You got to have. Because the truth of the matter is, he was right, because most people can't make a good living out of doing this.
Of course, yeah.
I get on my knees every night that I can make a good living doing comedy. But what happened now is I quit after I did that comedy riot, and then I quit because my parents were, you got to get a job. So this is what. So I take interviews with law firms in Boston. I get 2 or maybe 3 job offers. I said, I need a month to think about it. Can you give me a month to think about who I'm going to? So in that month, I start panicking. What am I going to do? I said, I don't want to work. This is. I'm going to be doing research. Yeah. They told me I can't get on. I can't get in front of in a courtroom. I can't do trials. It's going to be a couple of years before you work your way up to that. Yeah. I got to kiss the ass of the partner. I got to do this and that. I'm going to hate this. I panicked. At the last, first I bought a car that I couldn't afford, a red RX-7 sports car. I says, I'm going to buy this car. I can't afford it on $18,000 a year. I says, this will force me to take the job with the law firm that I don't want to take. And at the last minute, I panicked, and I called up Mike Clark, who's Lenny Clark's brother. Right. And I called up Barry Katz, who's now, it was the producer of Last Comic Standing, was the manager for Dane Cook and Dave Chappelle and everything. And they were the big bookers in Boston. And I'm reading from a list of New York clubs going, hi, my name's Paul D'Angelo. I've been at these clubs. I've been at Dangerfields. I've been at the Improv in New York. I'd like to do an audition for you. Okay, come in. They saw me, bingo, hired me as a headliner right away. Wow. So immediately I was doing 5, 6, 7 nights a week in Providence, Rhode Island, in Worcester, in Hartford, Connecticut, in Manchester, New Hampshire, and every back then this was the I'd say just starting the downswing of the comedy boom, where they put comedy in every Mexican restaurant, every Chinese restaurant, and so I'm literally working every night and then going to work in the morning. So
you've got this headliner slot, which you haven't really earned as far as you saying you kind of conned your way in there, or you? You pitched yourself.
I didn't earn it as far as experience, but I earned it as far as my performance. Because no, I didn't. Because and you know what? And I got to be honest with you, there was a lot of resentment in the comedy community. Like, who's this guy to come up so fast? But they didn't know the work I had put in behind the scenes.
That's in every trade of business.
And I had been you know, done all these trials. I mean, what great experience that is. You got to think on your feet. You got to have composure. You have to be able to articulate. You have to be able to reach an audience. I was the type of lawyer. I wasn't like one of those guys that just goes up there and reads stuff.
Yeah.
I was kind of theatrical So all of a sudden I was working, and now instead of having a big bar tab, they're giving me drinks.
Yeah.
And I'm putting the cash in my pocket, and I'm working I don't know how. I was exhausted every day. I mean, every single day.
Exhausted from being up all night, or from writing and writing and writing?
I was supervising some of the busiest courts in the Commonwealth, and working every night.
So you're still doing both at
and
this
I'm
time.
getting home at 2 in the morning. And I got to get up at like 7
and do your research.
Do all my stuff, and I was very efficient at what I did. Though I was really efficient as a lawyer. They would put me in charge of certain courthouses that had backlogs and stuff like that, and we got a very efficient at moving the cases and taking cases and things like that. So, but it was also the best time of my life because it was exciting. I had 4 divorce guys come to live with me back then because they
Where were you living at the time?
In Wakefield,
okay.
In a house that my grandfather built when he came from Italy in the 1920s. He fixed it up. And the doorbell would ring, and there'd be my friend, one of my friends with bad posture. He'd be like all bent over, and he'd have all of his belongings in a green plastic trash bag and a suitcase, and they go, I'm getting divorced. I got no place to go. I go, oh, come on in. And then a year later, they'd be waiting. I go, thanks a lot, Paul. Right? And then there'd be another guy at the door. I got no place to go. So
good material.
I went through 4 divorces vicariously. Besides the fact that when I was I clerked for the judges in the Middlesex probate court, and I had the ADD. I could only work for like 40 minutes at a time. I get fidgety. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'll go in and watch the divorces. I hate you. I hate you more. I want the dog. You can have half the dog. You right? So that's why I never got married. Probably. So I went through so many divorces, like by osmosis.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so now I'm working, and God bless Kevin Burke, the district attorney. As long as you do your job, as long as you do your job doesn't suffer. He let me do it, and I did. I stayed at the DA's office. I was there. I ended up being there 11 years.
Jeez.
Oh.
And then I says I got to go give this a shot. I got to give this a full time. Meanwhile, so I'm not hitting any of the highs and lows of being a comedian because I do an audition, I didn't get it. That's all right. I got to go to work the next day. Oh, this was a great show. Oh, I can't celebrate. I got to get up at 7 in the morning. I got to go to work the next day.
It gives you a little more freedom, yeah.
But it also limited my exposure. Whenever I had, if I had vacation, if I took some unpaid leave. And stuff like that. Okay, they want you. I'm going to Caesar's Palace for a week. I'm going on a cruise ship for a week. I'm going to Los Angeles to play in the clubs. I'm going to New York City for a week. And that was So I'm developing as a comedian. Yeah. But nobody in the country really knows me except for little pockets of people.
So you're known as a pretty clean comedian, which is why you have a lot of corporate gigs, and fundraisers, and things like that. Yeah. Was that because you were doing what you were doing during the day? Did you sort of feel pressured on staying?
No.
I mean, it's not like social media today where you get busted.
I don't think so. I just settled into that, and plus, and I'll get to that. Remind me in a second because you were talking about the comedy clubs. It's a different business now.
Yeah.
And whereas most of my business now consists of corporate events, conventions, company things, fundraisers, benefits. And I tell these young comedians, I says, if you want to work, you got to be able to work clean, If you listen to my act, like I'm at Giggles this weekend. We had a sold-out show last night, I think tonight too. I'll throw swears in there, but my swears are not vulgar. In other words, I talk out like exasperation, sarcasm, things like that. Whereas you are talking with your friends. If you got to make it sound conversation. If you're talking to friends, you would pepper that with a swear here and there. Sure. All I have to do when I do the corporate, I take them out. And even if one or two, if there's a swear here and there, people don't even notice them. As long as it's done in a non-offensive way. But I tell the comedians now, I said, well, you're going to work in the comedy clubs. It's not a comedy club business anymore. We could be filthy and everything like that. It doesn't fly. So I don't know why it happened that way. I don't know if I consciously tried to do that. Yeah. That way, it's just the way it worked out.
Interesting.
But anyway, so I just to get back to that story, to complete make a long story longer. But they gave me a going away party at the DA's. I'm moving to Los Angeles. My friend Patty Ross had moved out there already. I gave her the money to fix her car, and she got a place on Hollywood Boulevard. And I find an apartment building a couple blocks from her. I put a deposit down. I'm moving out to L.A.
Is this Patty Ross who lives back here now in the Cape?
Oh yeah.
In the Cape
Patty, who does no, she lives in actually Dedham, but she's an actress. Been on Grown Ups 2 and the Three Stooges movie and a lot of movies. Yeah. Very dear friend of mine.
So you moved to L.A.
Yeah. So no. So I'm ready to move to L.A. I put the deposit down. I'm doing a show up in New Hampshire, and I get a call from my friend Randy Chapman, who now just became named a judge. Very proud of him. And Randy said, "Paul, I need your help tomorrow morning." I said, "What?" He says, "We got to go to Lowell Court. We got 3 co-defendants. I only got 2 people in my law firm. Can you represent the third guy? It's 3 brothers. They're going to dismiss the case against him. He wasn't even there that night." I said, "All right." So I show up at court the next day. There's 100 cameras.
Oh, geez.
It's a big case. It was a rape case that wasn't a rape case. It would end up all being dismissed. It was a false charge thing. I'm on TV. My friends go, "What are you doing? I thought you were going to Los Angeles." I just taken this case. He said they're going to dismiss the case. A year and a half later, the case is still going. And now I'm a defense attorney. And people call me up. "I saw you on TV. We want to hire you." And I become a defense attorney. And
what year is this?
This is 93.
Okay.
93, 3, 4, 5, and the beginning of 96.
Jeez.
And I'm very successful at it. Never lost every trial.
You were not a public defender, defense attorney.
Defense attorney, criminal defense trial attorney.
Must have been some good money, right?
Well, this is what I did. I made the same amount of money in the DA's office by working less. Because I was working as the comic. So I said, this will give me more free time to travel. Right. I'll make the same amount of money just doing less cases. And stuff, but now I'm doing good things for bad people. I'm getting people off, and I'm going, I don't know if I'm doing the world a favor. And then I had a motor vehicle homicide case where it just turned my stomach so much. The kid had no remorse, neither did the family. And I said, what am I doing, man? I could be in Vegas. I could be on a cruise ship right now. And so I finally wrapped that up, and I moved to L.A. in 96. I stayed there for 6 years. I could have failed in 3. And then after that, I finally eventually came home, and I've just based out of Boston since 2002.
But Paul, going to L.A., is that the venture to hit the big time?
The only regret I have is I should have moved to New York. New York would have been better suited for me. I went to L.A., and you know what? They made me feel so old. I was talking to I was talking to my cousin, my second cousin, who's a big agent with ICM out in L.A., and he called to wish me a happy birthday the other day, and I said, when I lived in L.A., they made me feel so old. Because I had a friend who I befriended who became like a little brother to me. He was 23. He was telling people he was 19. I go, you got to lie. I just turned 40. Wow. I moved there the year I turned 40. And I said, oh, my God, they made me feel so... And now I'm looking back at pictures from when I lived in L.A. Oh, my God, I was so young. Yeah. I didn't know I was going to get this ugly. And well, the funny thing is, and this is why it's funny that you say this, because this is relevant. When I got to L.A., I regretted that I never wrote things down at the DA's office, because every day the cops would come in, they loved me, because not only police officers will still come up to me and go, you are our favorite DA, because not only did you entertain us, but you were good at what you did.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And there's never been anybody else like you. And the cops they're all my friends and everything like that. So so what was the point I was trying to make? So I go to LA. I said, geez, I never wrote things down in a day because it was so crazy every day that things would happen, and then the next day it would be crazy again, and you forget all the stuff that happened the day because people would have to remind, hey, remember the time you did this? I go, no, I don't, but now they bring it up. So I said, when I got to LA, things started to suck immediately. I says, I'm writing a diary because after a year,
Perfect.
I'll have a diary of how I rose.
And material.
To superstardom,
Yes.
right? And then I'll have this, here's the bio he wrote this diary and everything like that. Well, everything started to go wrong as soon as I got there. So I had 6 300-page diaries.
Oh, geez.
Called L.A. Miserable series. And the L.A. Miserable, and that was only in the first 3.5 years, then I stopped doing them.
Yeah.
But I've written 2 books that won like 5 and 6 international awards and stuff. They're all short, funny stories. And I was doing a show New Year's Eve, and my friend Mitch was actually the opening act for me. A beautiful theater, Lockham Theater in Beverly. And he announced, he went on and did like 20 minutes, and then they took an intermission. He said, we're having an intermission. Paul will be signing his 3 award-winning books in the lobby. So people coming out, you have a 3rd book? I go, no, I don't. He made a mistake. Well, when's the 3rd book coming out? I says, I'm working on it. It's probably going to be a couple of years. It's a lot of work. What am I going to do? And my friend says, why don't you release that diary? I read it. It's hilarious. So I started reading the diary, the first one.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's so funny because I'm so miserable and I'm making fun of LA. I mean, LA is like.
So why were you miserable?
It's
Why
like
did
a
it
big
suck
Jerry
immediately?
Springer show.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Oh, well, you know what? I was a prosecutor and a defense attorney. I dealt with criminals and lawyers. I met more a-holes in L.A. in a week than I did in a month in the court system, and I'm dealing with criminals and lawyers. I mean, people phonies and things and everything.
Totally.
What was and you know what? And it's the type of business.
Yeah.
It's not any other type of business. You're a baseball player. If you hit 350, they're going to bring you up from the minors.
Yep.
If you're a salesman and you're successful, you're going to get a promotion. You're gonna,
merit, yeah.
It's kind of like the Unforgiven, right before when Clint Eastwood shoots Little Bill, he says, deserves got nothing to do with it. Yeah, he said, there's no correlation sometimes between the talent and the. So here's my father going, hey, how come I saw this guy on the Tonight Show? He sucked.
Yeah.
How come you're not? I says, Dad, I did an audition for Tonight Show. I got a standing ovation. They didn't pick me. Why? You must be pissing somebody off. I said, Dad, I'm nice to everybody. You must be. You gotta be pissing somebody off. So it's very frustrating, Yeah. If I had a buck for everybody who came up to me in L.A. and said, I've had people in the business say, the one mystery I have is that nobody gave you a break.
What was the circuit that you did? Is it the Comedy Store?
Well, listen, I would do the Comedy Store. I went in front of Mitzi 7 times at the Comedy. Mitzi's Pauly Shore's mother.
Did she like you?
Did she? So I go up every time I did an audition, go see what Mitzi thought. So this is what she said. This guy's too polished. He doesn't need the place to work out. He needs a sitcom. Tell us to call us when he gets his own sitcom. I go, no, I need a place to work out. I got to get on stage. I got to get on stage. 7 times I did an audition for Mitzi.
Jesus.
Every time I did better because I cared less. And then by the 7th time, I'm ready to move back, and they go, we want to put you on tonight to do an audition for Mitzi. She's seen me 7 times. Every time she said the exact same thing. She's losing her mind. I don't think she even knows it's me because she says the same thing. Oh, he needs to get a sitcom.
Yeah.
Tell him he's too polished. He's already polished. She wants to develop a guy, so he owes her his life.
I see how that works.
So now they go, Paul, you got nothing to lose. I said, my friends go, Paul, you got nothing to lose. Take the audition. What the hell? You don't care now. Now you rip the place up. So I go up there and I ripped the room down. And Andrew Dice Clay was there that night. He came up to me. All these comedians come up to me and everything like that.
And what was their response? What was their...
In fact, my friend Mitch, a different Mitch, was in the back room of the Comedy Store, and Joey Diaz came out of the comedy. He goes, Mitch, and he goes, geez, your friend's kicking ass. And Mitch says, I know it. He goes, but Mitch will never pass him, right?
Yeah.
Which he did to Jerry Seinfeld too.
I know.
That's a compliment.
And so I go, well, maybe she forgets. Maybe she's so out of her mind. She doesn't know it's me. And she goes, this is honest to God. This would be a very funny quote if it wasn't me. So somebody goes, what'd you think of Paul? And she goes, I remember this guy. He ain't getting any worse. Right hand to God. So they would only give me. I wouldn't get spots over there. The Laugh Factory passed me. we make you a regular. But now, I got bumped every week that they put me on. I got bumped, because this manager, who's high-powered manager, is going to put his guy in. Or Damon Wayans came in, he just did an hour on stage, and now everybody's get bumped who was supposed to go after him. And so I would go months without getting on stage at these places, and the Improv was the same way.
Yeah.
Now the Hermosa Beach Comedy and Magic Club, which I think is the best club in L.A., where Jay Leno does his own show every Sunday night. I used to headline that club. In fact, I got a thing on my refrigerator that they get requests for comedians, and I was right behind Rodney Dangerfield.
Oh, fantastic!
On that thing, and I put it on my refrigerator.
Take it easy.
But I mean, I'm headlining there, and I can't even get on because I don't have the cachet. I don't have the high power. I don't have the agent. I don't have the thing. I got a bunch of managers who were phony. They were nothing. They did nothing for me.
Did you have to get a real job when you're out there? Did you?
I would come back to Boston every couple months and work for a few weeks, compile my money, and then go. I'd go to Vegas, or I'd go on the road, or go someplace and make my money, because there was no money in those clubs.
Wow, that is
at all and everything. So I went out there, and I'm frustrated. I'm miserable. I moved out with my girlfriend, who we're not getting along because she thought I was going to be a star, and she ran off for the movie producer. I got married to a movie producer, and I'm in this apartment now. I went backwards. Usually you struggle at the beginning of your career. Yeah. And then you get better and everything. Now I've made success, and now I got to go backwards. And now I'm living in this apartment with bugs in it, and there's Mexicans getting robbed outside my house, and there's helicopters looking for fugitives, and there's hookers on the corner down from my street with penises and everything, and I'm 2 blocks from Mann's Chinese Theater, and people are coming back. In those days, it was a dump, and everybody, let's go down to this place, and we're tourists, and they go down there, and they look at the star on the sidewalk, and there's a bum peeing himself on the star, and there's a T-shirt shop, and there's a tattoo parlor, and it was a dump, and there was so much of me to make fun of. So in this book, in this L.A. Miserable diary, I mean, I'm just so miserable. My girlfriend and I aren't getting along. The apartment's horrible. Jeez. I can't get on stage, and it's hilarious. Because that's where comedy comes from.
Yeah, sure.
Comedians say, Paul, what's funny? I go, tension, conflict, adversity. What do you mean by that? You ask a guy, how's your life? I got a great wife, good kids, love my job, got a great boss. Financially, I'm doing really well. What's funny about that? Nothing. He said, how's your life? Oh, my kids are a pain in the ass. My wife is driving me crazy. My boss is an ass. I hate my job. I can't pay the bill. That's where the funny comes in.
That is funny.
So being in LA, it's so funny because I'm venting. And this is why it was so important, because I can't get on stage, but I write. I'm always writing. I'm always creating. Where am I going to? I can't try out new material. I can't even do my old material here. So I started putting it in the book, and I tell people that was so cathartic. It was so therapeutic, because when things went wrong, all right, they ship my car out. They lose my car. The bull dyke from the Ozarks who was driving the truck abandoned the truck and left it out there, and the cops are telling me to go look for it, and I don't even know where I am, and I'm deputized somehow, and I'm looking for my car, and if I didn't have that diary to write that stuff down, that would have been a miserable experience.
Yeah, right.
But now it's hilarious because I'm writing it down, and I'm venting it through the book. And so I'm really kind of looking forward to getting this book out there.
I saw you on your website. You have the couple of books that you've written, and then you have a bunch of DVDs and CDs. Yeah,
I have 3 CDs that are professionally recorded. They play on national radio all the time. 3, almost an hour of material each one is different. My 2 DVDs, half of each of those hours are not even on the CDs.
Oh, okay.
Plus the book is all stuff that's not in the. I'm always writing. These are all stories over the years I accumulated and put and routines that don't get in my book. I mean, don't get in my act rather, and I put them in the book. So there's not a lot of overlap. It's just all this material.
Yeah.
I probably got enough to cut another DVD now, or new stuff since then, but. That's what makes it exciting for me, the creative process and come up with new stuff.
Do you have, with all the writing that you do, and you do write tirelessly, do you have sometimes points in an act where you say, I know this part is a little weaker than the rest, and I know this part is?
Oh, absolutely. My act is constantly under revision and stuff because I set a very high standard for it. And you know what? I help out a lot of comedians, and sometimes you say something and you're trying to help someone else, and it helps you because you think about it. Because somebody, I told them I'd help them out, and they came to my apartment. This was in L.A. actually, and I remember it happened. And they said, I said, well, what have you written since the last time I helped you out? And they told me a joke. I said, okay, what do you think of that joke? They said, I think it's a good joke. I said, why don't you want it to be a great joke? And they said, I never thought of that. So when I think that's why my writing in those books is successful, because it's succinct, it gets to the point, there's not a lot of fat. I mean, it's try to be entertaining, because when you're on stage, you can't have a lot of like downtime. You people are expecting, something. So get to the point. So a pause can be very important. Changing one word can be important. I mean, it's not important if you want to be mediocre, but if you want to be the best at what you do, you got to work at it.
It's got to be tough to bridge from one subject to another subject in mid. You know how do you do that?
That's funny. Like a guy like a Stephen Wright, I would watch him do a set, and I go, how does he remember this stuff? Because it's all non sequitur.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like it takes one thing, and then the next joke has nothing to do with the first joke. My joke, if you go to my show, I have like themes. Like last night, the first 20 minutes, I talked about the winter. I have routines about the winter. In the summertime, I got routines about the summertime. Then I have a whole thing on basically, if you say a general theme, I'd say like kids, how it's a different world than it used to be. Growing up now and what kids are now and everything.
Great.
And then the third theme is getting older. I appreciate the most important thing you teach your kids is to appreciate being young, because it sucks getting older. And it's all about, then it's a lump. So my routine kind of flow. And the funny thing you say about that, and I'm learning lessons. I learn lessons every day, even after 30 years. But I said to my friend, I learned something. Like if I want to do a joke, and I said, I want to throw that joke in, that new joke tonight, I got to determine where that joke is going to go into my act before I get on stage, because otherwise I won't find a place to fit it. I had to find a place to fit that joke so it makes sense in my act. I could go off on a tangent and just do a bunch of jokes that have nothing to do with the rest of the stuff. Or if I'm on a theme, how am I going to get into this? Like I'll go off on like mini themes. Like last night, I was talking about the kids, and then I started talking about Christmas and how kids love Christmas. So, hey, Santa's coming, and we're all miserable and stressed out, and so it went on a theme about Christmas, and then it got on a theme of Christmas shopping and stuff. So
I saw your video on YouTube about kids taking the school bus and gift certificates, and I thought it was some of the funniest material I've heard, and it's really funny. You were at Giggles, I believe that. The school, it's just an example of the kids. I'm behind a school bus, and they stop and they drop the kid off. Then they go to the next house and they drop the kid. Wait a second, the kid couldn't walk 50 feet from and meanwhile I'm behind the thing. The children are overweight. We can't understand it. I'll tell you why they're overweight. They don't do anything anymore. I got stuck behind a school bus the other day. You get stuck behind a school bus on the way to work in the morning, call in sick. You'll never get paid. They stop at every house now. What happened in a bus stop? That's not a bus, that's a bright yellow limousine. Hey, Joey, get on the bus. Don't get too comfortable. We're going next door to pick up your neighbor, Jimmy. Hey, Jimmy, thanks for not walking 50 feet to your left, you fat little butterball. Meanwhile, I used to walk to school in a blizzard, and there was no, I'd walk to, my mother never picked me up at school. Exactly. Now you go by a school now, you can't even get near the school because every parent is picking the kids up. I know.
The only time they pick me up is if I was sick or if I got suspended. Yeah. And the only reason they picked me up if I got suspended is because they want to stop beating me before they got home. Right. They didn't want to waste any time. So, but now, and this is what I vent on that stuff. Yeah.
So how do you approach, just say a joke like that, do you approach that joke from, I'm going to look for common experiences where people say, Jesus Christ, that's my everyday too, behind the goddamn bus? Or do you...
It's a very good question. It's a very good... you know what? And I go back to the theme of trying to help other comedians, because sometimes when you define it for them, it defines it for yourself. Mm-hmm. And they say, I want to quit my job and I just want to sit down and write. Mm-hmm.
I said, no. Just live life.
Yeah.
But be observant. You have to train your mind to think like a comedian. Okay, so you're in the shower and you got a roommate and you go to pick up the soap and there's a curly hair on it. No. If you just a guy, you go, this is disgusting. But if you're a comedian, go, oh, I'm gonna, I can make a joke out of that, right? You got to be looking for it.
The gift certificates, for
if
example.
you want to sit down and write, sit down with the stuff that you've put down that needs work. Sit down. Don't sit down and go, I'm going to come up with an idea sitting at my desk. No, go out, look at people, work your job, talk to your family, but write stuff down. Every girlfriend I've ever had thought it was such a pain in the neck because you got a pen, give it on the back of a matchbook, on the back of a napkin.
Yes.
Yeah. If you don't write it down right then, discipline. You got to, and that's what the DA's office and the legal degree and everything teach you discipline. So, okay. Oh, you're a pain in the ass. Yeah, guess what? If I don't write this down, it's gone. It's gone forever.
Oh, yeah.
And so when you say, where do you get an idea? It's just sometimes I write. And you know what? And I give myself credit for being that disciplined because I'll get down and I'll write all these things in. I'll put them in my computer. Then maybe, I can't find what's funny about this. But now I go back. I'm going to go back on those old notes. And I go back, and I literally got thousands of pages, and I go, ooh, now I know how I can make that funny. Or now I have the context to plug that into, that it makes a lot of sense. I didn't know how to make. I've had jokes sometimes, and I've had them for years, and I go, it's just something's missing. In fact, my friend Mitch last night, I had a joke about.
Is this Mitch who I know, the Air Force guy?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
I had a joke about, and this was true, about with the kids thing. What are they teaching the kids in school? And it's true. My girlfriend has an 18-year-old daughter. She's a senior in high school. And Mitch said, you got the ending to that joke. I said, I know. I said, the joke, especially when you lead, if you've seen my joke, like the gift certificate joke, if you got a joke that's going, if you lead them down the road that long, you got to pay off at the end. You can't have a mediocre ending if you got a 3-minute joke I have, right? So I had that joke. I said, Mitch, it needs a good ending. So just to give you the idea, Mitch says, you got it that. And I said, it was like an epiphany from God that came down and said, that's it. That's how that joke's got to end.
Most pressure a man can be under to buy a gift is to buy a birthday gift or a Christmas present for the wife or girlfriend. You know why? Because even though it might make the most sense, even though it might be the most practical thing you could do, the one thing you could never get the wife or girlfriend for a Christmas or birthday gift is a gift certificate. Because we have been told over and over again, it takes no thought to get a gift certificate. It actually takes more thought than you can imagine. So next time your wife yells at you, goes, I can't believe you got me a gift certificate for my birthday. This took absolutely no thought whatsoever. Your answer should be, you have no idea how much thought went into get you this gift certificate. First, I thought about buying you a gift, but I didn't know what to get you. So I thought, and I thought, and then I thought some more. But I still couldn't think of anything you really needed. Then I thought about going to the mall and looking around. But then I thought about wandering around aimlessly for hours and hours and still having no idea what the hell you could possibly want. Then I thought about getting frustrated, spend a lot of money to buy something you're probably not going to even like anyway. Then I thought about you complaining, go, what'd you get this for? This is stupid, I hate it. What the hell are you thinking? Then I thought about muttering under my breath, but maybe next year I won't get you shit. Then I thought about that starting a big fight. Then I thought about the fight leading towards breaking up. Then I thought about you getting bitter and taking your car key and dragging it across the side of my brand new car. Then I thought about having to get a restraining order against you. Then I thought about you asking for a divorce and trying to get half my stuff. Then I thought for just a second about killing you and burying you in the backyard. But then suddenly my thoughts turned to the possibility I could be single again. Then I thought that maybe I could meet a pretty young girl with big tits and a trust fund. Who would appreciate the things I do and doesn't give me shit like some other people. But then I snapped out of it and said, you know, on second thought, I think I'll get her a gift certificate. Does that make sense?
And I'm over at my girlfriend's house, I'm watching TV, and I hear a baby crying from the daughter's room. So I'm hearing things, and I hear it again. I says, did I hear a baby crying? And she said, yes, you did. I said, there's a baby in your daughter's room? She goes, no, and this is the honest to God truth. It says it's a homework assignment. They give her an 8-pound, 1-ounce, anatomically correct baby that is programmed, I swear to God, that's programmed to eat, sleep, pee, cry. You got to feed it. It's supposed to teach the kid the responsibility of taking care of a baby. I said, well, that's weird. They never had that when I was a kid. A little while later, the daughter comes down the stairs. Ma, I can't get that baby to stop crying. I don't know what to do. You got to help me. Now I got to watch the fake grandmother go upstairs to help the fake mother take care of the fake baby. I go, this is too weird for me, right? So now, after a while, I says, the baby keeps crying. And I've had it. And I scream upstairs, shut that effing baby up, or I'll come up and shut it up myself. I didn't know there's a little microphone in the baby because the teachers are monitoring this to teach how to think. Next thing you know, the cops are at the house.
Oh my God!
I mean, this is the only place where it was different, where I took over. The cops are at the house. They go, well, we had a complaint of child abuse. I go, there's no child. There can be no abuse. There's no. Yeah, but somebody threatened the doll. I go, it's a doll. Right? And they go, well, we got to do our job. I said, now I got to go to fake court. I got to hire a fake lawyer. I got to go and find a fake chair. So I didn't have an ending for the thing. And I says, I'm going to be in handcuffs on TV. My friends are going, Paul, what happened? I go, don't believe it. Fake news. Fake news. So Mitch goes, fake news. That was perfect. I go,
nice.
I had the whole thing. It led up to this point. And then you need to pay off. And then I go, fake news.
So that reminds me of something that happened in my town. They had Kick a Ginger Day where kids are kicking little kids with red hair.
Yeah.
It happens in other towns. South Park started this thing, and so kids in high school kick kids. And I have a daughter with red hair, so I got on the community Facebook page and I said, if anybody kicks my daughter, like any high school kid kicks my daughter, I'm going to kick the kid in the teeth. And people got on Facebook and said, you can't threaten kids. That is assault. You cannot assault a kid. And essentially got accused of assault for a hypothetical. I didn't even have
the world's gone crazy.
It's okay for them to kick her, though?
You know how many times you know how many times in my act where I go, I'm going to tell you something. If you don't believe me, look it up. Look it up. In particular, one thing where I say, if you think I'm exaggerating, if you think I'm making this up, and I say the new high school girls track champion in Connecticut is a boy.
Right.
And the people go, really? And you'll hear some people go, yes, that's true. I say, but Paul, he's transitioning to become a woman. No, hasn't done a thing. In fact, he's got a mustache. Mm-hmm. Well, Paul, he's beating all the girls. How can he compete? Because he says, I feel like a girl. I identify as a girl.
Yeah.
Apparently all you have to do is I identify as something and nobody can question you. I said, knowing that, I now identify as 12 years old.
Yep.
I'm going off the Pop Warner football again, and this time I'm going to kick some ass. Right? and I go on the whole thing. But I tell them at the beginning, I said, I'm not making this up. This is a fact. And I actually had someone come up and it's an insult to transsexuals or whatever. I said, no. I said, listen to my joke. You could hear a trigger. Right. I said, I didn't say anything insulting to them. I'm just saying I'm adopting. Yes. I'm adopting this thing. Yeah. Hey, right. If you can identify, I can identify.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Isn't that crazy that 5 years ago you could watch the Monty Python Life of Brian where he says, I want to be a woman. Where's the fetus going to gestate? In a box? And that was a funny, that was a funny bit in that movie, and it was brilliant and prescient. But now that's considered, hate talk.
Oh yeah.
It's so incredible.
It's the hate talk, the racist, the thing. I do the laundry. I'm afraid to separate the dark clothes from the white clothes. I don't want Al Sharpton outside the house go, the separation of the colored clothes from the white. I'm just doing the laundry.
That's fantastic.
So I want to get back to your writing because, first of all, did you ever take a gig as just a writer? Because you probably certainly could do it.
You know what? It's weird when it's that you say that. In L.A., I got offered jobs as a writer, which in L.A., in Hollywood, that's a great way to start a career, make money and everything. And at the time, I said, you know what? No, I'm a performer. Yeah. And I said, and if I'm going to sit at a desk and write, I'll go be a lawyer again. Yeah. And I never did. I probably should have taken those jobs, but I didn't. Yeah.
So what if you write, usually what's a set is 15 minutes or 30 minutes, right? Is that usually?
No, not for a headliner. Typically, it depends on the situation, but typically at a club or a thing, it's usually 40 to 50 minutes.
The headliner, okay. So what if you've written the thousands of hours that go into it and you have a solid 45 minutes and you know it, what if the audience gets it wrong? What if they're not laughing where they should be and they are laughing where they shouldn't be? Does that ever happen?
Well, okay, when you're saying I got to do 45 minutes and all I have is 45 minutes. When I first started out, the first time I ever played the club, I ended up playing like all the music theaters and opened up for like 60 international, like Huey Lewis and the News and the Four Tops and Ray Charles and Aretha Franklin and Lyle Lovett and all those people, right? So the first time I ever did a show at the Club Casino, it holds 2,500 people. Remember Pia Zadora?
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
And she married like the 85-year-old guy. She was like the Anna Nicole Smith that married the billionaire guy. Well, he sent her on a tour with like 60-piece orchestra. And he financed the whole thing. And of course, nobody bought in the casino. They had 2 tickets sold the day of the show, so they sent buses to nursing homes to bring in all these 80-year-old people to go see the show, just so they didn't have an empty place. Wow! And they asked me to be the opening act, so I go there. And you got to do a 45 minutes. All I have is 45 minutes, and I did have one dirty. It wasn't that dirty joke where where my friend gets married, he comes home late, the wife's waiting up for him, he yells at him and stuff. I says, you got to come home. I says, slam the door and yell up the stairs, honey, I'm home, I want a BJ, right? And it says, guarantee you go up to the bedroom. right? So I said the BJ word in front of all, because that's all I had. You will never ever play this venue again for the rest of your life because that's all I had. Oh wow! So I tell comedians, I said, the more you write, the more versatility you have because you can adapt to certain situations. You know, if I go in to do a show and it's a convention of insurance agents, I got a whole bunch of jokes I wrote about insurance people. Or I can take these jokes and just by a different introduction, I can make them about their business. Yeah, you know, so it just gives you that flexibility if you write. So. If the crowd's not getting it, I don't really, I'm not saying this to be self-serving, I don't really have that problem because I think the things that I talk about are stuff that you can relate to. I've done shows for people in their 80s and I've done shows for people in high school and they still get it. Yeah. They still get it. You know, so I think that's part of the thing is you got to reach people. I do have respect for certain comedians who have a niche audience. And they go, I don't care what anybody thinks about me. These people love me. Like your Andrew Dice Clay or someone like that. Okay, Nicky DiPaolo is one of my favorite comedians ever. And Nick says, and I tell Nicky, he says, you say all the things I would never dare say on stage because I don't want to alienate the crowd. Yeah. You know, so even when you talk, like, you know, political material, I don't do that. My political material on stage is very subtle. In a lot of ways, it gets the message across, but it's not like preachy, get in your in your face type thing. Because I don't want to start off by alienating half the crowd. Yeah. So I think that when you say people don't get you or whatever, I say, well, if they don't get you, then maybe you're doing it wrong, or you know, or you're targeting a particular type of audience. I try to say stuff that's kind of a little more universal. Right. So that doesn't really happen. But there are situations where it's, you know, before you even step on the stage, it doesn't matter who you are. Yeah. You know, you could be Bill Cosby, Jerry Seinfeld, go up there. This is going to suck. Nobody's listening. I've done shows. You've done shows like that. You know, where okay, I'm just going to plow through this. Yeah. I did a show not too long ago, and the guy, I'm so sorry. The people were so rude. He said, I just plowed. I said, I'm gonna give them my time. I'm gonna do the best I can under the circumstances.
Smartphones must suck in the audience, watching people surf the web and tweet and stuff.
Well, they tell people to shut them off. But if you see people, with the glow on their face.
Did you ever play in Chicago?
Yeah, in fact,
Zanies by chance?
Yes, in fact, that's the only club left really in Chicago. There used to be the Improv was there.
Improv
I was
Olympic.
the first white guy to do a show at a place called All Jokes Aside. It was a high end black club, and they hired me to do a show at a guy saw me in Los Angeles, and a black man came up to me and he said, "I'm hiring black comedians for this show in Chicago." He says, and I listened to your act right on the topic. He says, but you talk about stuff that everybody can relate to. Would you come and do? I said, absolutely. I'll come and do a show. And he brought me in this place called All Jokes Aside. And I walked up on stage. It was the first white guy I ever played there. and I looked around the club, and they all stared at me, and I said, I feel like a penguin in the Bahamas. And they started laughing, and they started laughing, and it was perfect from that point on. And as a matter of fact, when we did the show that was on the movie that was on Showtime, Godfathers of Comedy, that was filmed at St. Charles.
Okay,
at a
west
theater,
of Chicago.
What's the name of it? I forget the name of the theater. In St. Charles.
Yeah, I used to live right behind Zanies, and you used to have to go through the back door down that small, tiny alley to get in while the performer was on. But that was a great spot over there.
Yeah, the last time I was at Zanies was when I was in town to film that thing. We went over to Zanies. All of us who appeared in that movie went over to Zanies.
Oh, okay.
And appeared there. But it used to be like 4 or 5 clubs in Chicago. And for such a big city, Zanies is the only thing left, really.
A couple of around Wrigley.
I mean, they get some little, nights, comedy nights, but not a true club,
Yeah, but it's loaded with jazz bars and blues bars and everything
which
else.
is good
you can
too.
imagine. Absolutely,
yeah, but it's not a club business anymore. And I give the people the example of Nick's in Boston. It was on Warrington Street. Nick's, I had my own show there for 8 years. Nick's was packed every night, 300 or 400 people. On Friday night, 2 shows. Saturday night, we did 5 shows a couple times on a Saturday night. 3 shows in the main showroom with over 400 people. 1 show in the theater downstairs. They had a little theater room for a while. And 1 show for the people waiting to see the theater.
It's exhausting.
And there was the Comedy Connection down the street. And there was the Duck Soup across the other street,
and the
which is now the Will.
There too, right?
And the Vault was across. There were 4 comedy clubs within a couple block area, and they were all sold out. That was the heyday of the thing. Now Nick's, I haven't even played Nick's anymore. It's really a dance club, and they have comedy at the beginning just to kill time until the people come in. The Shah and his kids, buying bottles of champagne and coming in a Lamborghini and giving out $100 tip. Really, that's what.
Did you ever do shows in New York, like the Village and things like that? Or
the last time I was in New York, I did the Friars Club, which was really cool just to be in there.
Yeah,
I was in awe. It was like just
did Louis C.K. ever perform in front of you?
Louis C.K. Louis and I started. Do you know? I sent an email to Louis a couple of years ago, and he said, "Paul, do you know that you and I signed up at Stitches the very first night? My first night was your first night. And I didn't even know that."
Oh.
Louis C.K.
Yeah, he's from.
Of course, I've done much better than he has.
He's from Newton, right? Louis?
He's local
Everybody's
guy,
from here.
And Louis, it's funny. And Louis, and I'll tell you 2 Boston comedians who are my favorite now, guys that I started with, Billy Burr and Louis C.K. But both of them went through a transition in their, how would I say it, in their delivery, their material and everything like that. That they were always good comics, and then they made a transition. Like Billy went off on the rant in Philadelphia, and he started being going this rant comic and talk. Louis started just talking about stuff
middle-aged
and
divorce,
not caring what he talked about and everything like that. And that's what made them so popular. So they kind of reinvented themselves and became great comedians. And I used to do shows with those guys, Joey Rogan, so many people that went on to things.
What did you think of Rogan?
Joey was a good comedian. Joey was a little edgy for my taste, but I respected him as a comedian, and he's had a great career. I was a big MMA fan. Even back to the days when they didn't even have weight classes.
Back when it was brutal.
When they didn't even have weight class. I used to have in L.A. We'd rent a movie at Blockbusters. All my friends would come. The Misfit toys that hung out at my apartment, because even as bad as I was doing in L.A., I was doing better than them. So they all came over to my house, and they were like raccoons going through my refrigerator and everything. But we used to get those MMA fights. But Joe, by the way, is a great martial arts guy himself.
Yeah.
And
when you were,
hold on, I just want to stick with Rogan for a second.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah. One thing that I've noticed, and I've become a fan of his podcast, is that he promotes a lot of comedians on his podcast. The guys who are around and the West Coast comedians.
Joe's a smart guy. Yeah.
Smart guy, and he has a lot. He seems to support a lot of his colleagues. And I've noticed that from a lot of comedians. Comedians have that. There seems to be almost a camaraderie. Do you see that, or do you see it?
There's support up to a point. I mean, there's support of a lot of people think. People would say to me, "Oh, in L.A., go see Jay Leno. He'll help you. He's from Andover." No. And the truth is, I'll tell you the truth of the matter is Jay Leno really never helped any any comedians out because he got his job on the Tonight Show. You never saw a guest host on the Tonight Show. Yes. Because that's how he got his job on the Tonight Show. So
Survival.
Jay Leno, we asked him to do a very brief cameo at the beginning of that Godfathers of Comedy because it was all Italian American comedians. And if he had just like put his like face on there for 20 seconds, we would think we were trying to get a theatrical release like the Blue Collar guys and the Kings of Comedy. And he would have helped us immensely. And his manager said Jay has a policy that he won't help people. In fact, Jay's best friend and head writer asked Jay to do a minor favor. He said, I won't tell you what it was. It would have helped his career immensely. Jay said, I can't make exception for you.
Jesus.
So, yeah. So, and I'm not making he's a bad guy or something like that, but I mean, I was really surprised he didn't help us out because he had already retired from his Tonight Show thing, and it wasn't like we were a thing, you know. I asked Dane Cook to do I helped Dane Cook get started. He thanked me on his first CD.
Yeah.
I asked him to write a very brief foreword of my book. 3 months later, I'm calling the manager. He hasn't even responded to me. He says, well, I can't believe he hasn't. Then he finally wrote me a whole explanation why he wouldn't write the foreword. He could have taken that same time just to write something stupid, you know?
Jeez.
It would have helped with the publishers and everything like that. And that's not to put those guys down, but you know what? There's insecurity too. So when you say these guys are helpful, Joe's maybe at a place now, he's done well for himself that he doesn't have that, you know, that insecurity. But it depends on the individual, I would say.
Yeah, I could see it. I mean, certainly, you know, being in radio and the big stations, hosts, 89% of all radio hosts are just bleep on other hosts.
Yeah.
They don't have a good thing to say.
Well, that's an insecurity thing too. You know,
Yeah.
People. It's how hard you work. Every comedian I've ever worked with said the one thing that universally they've said, I can't believe how hard you work at this. Anybody, if you're a musician, an actor, whatever, a singer, anything, if you're good at something, you had to put the time. There's no shortcuts and stuff. So you got to put the time in. So that confidence comes from knowing that you put your own time in. I tell these comedians, I'm going to hold back for the good of the show because this guy won't be able to follow me. I go, no, this is a very individualistic business.
Yeah.
You do your job. You're not going to pull punches like you're Jake LaMotta. You're going to take a dive, right? It says, no, you do your job. If a guy can't follow you, then they'll have you follow him next time. I says, so it's a very individualistic. So I can understand when I told you about the Boston comedy community, when I came up, I could totally understand them being, territorial and protecting their thing because this is the way I make my living. Who's this new guy? And stuff like that. But I worked hard at it. So it's a very individualistic. So yes, if a comedian gets sick or something, you want to do a fundraiser, you'll see 1 million comedians donating their time. A lot of comedians donate their time for charities and things like that. If I was helping people, it's a case by case basis, I think.
What was that point? First of all, you were saying something.
Oh no, I was just when you were at school in Boston. Did you live in Boston at all at the time, or
back and forth depending on how much money I had? Sometimes I show up at my parents.
Yeah, you said you had a lot of bar tabs.
This is when I was at the DA's office. Okay. Those clubs, I don't know if they're around anymore.
Where were those bar tabs?
There'll be no shore
which
somewhere,
places?
Right?
Red Hat, I would assume. 21st Amendment, maybe.
Oh, I've been there before. Name a place. I used to go in. But in those days, come on, everybody. I came from a generous family, so I was like, the bar, get yourself a round of drinks and everything. Yeah. So Red Hat was right near Suffolk Law.
Oh, yeah.
And
21st, that was two of our favorites.
Still around. Not too many of them are still around like they used to be.
No. The places at BC was Mary Ann's and the Ark and all the places down. There was.
So why are comedy clubs going away? I don't know. There's nothing like being there in person. It's a different. Watching on YouTube is fun. Being there in person is explosive.
Okay, I'm going to tell you why. When they had the comedy boom, I think one of the things that helped the comedy boom was because I was in the DA's office at the time. They cracked down on drunk driving. Stevie D's Comedy Tonight was the first big comedy club on the North Shore, a very successful club. But then they started putting it was in Middleton. Middleton had like one police car, and they put it on 114 because back then, before Middleton was built up, every car going in and out of Middleton had to go on 114. So people were getting nabbed coming out of Stevie D's, right? In fact, I remember being in court one time, and a lawyer reminded me of this. Used to after a conviction or a plea, the judge would say, "I have to ask you, where'd you have your last drink that night, and the guy said, I was at Stevie D's Comedy Tonight, and that guy was the headliner. And I'm going over to him, I'm going, despite the arrest, did you have a good time? When they started cracking down on the drunk driving, all of a sudden people go, oh, you can't go to a bar and just drink all night anymore. So, I can go to a comedy club, I can have a couple drinks, I can take a date, and this is a great way to go. So now they put comedy in every Chinese restaurant, Mexican restaurant, club things. Clubs are sprouting out and they're all sold out. But now it's like Major League Baseball. You expand, and all of a sudden, there's only so much talent to go around. So now you got the headliner at the club you're going to see now should really be a middle act. But there's so many rooms, he's now the headliner. Now the middle act really should be the opening act. The opening act should be still doing open mics. And so now you're watering down the talent. Now I said, well, I like that headline, I'm going to go see him again. And they go see a headliner, and he's got the same act. He hasn't changed his act at all. Some guys did the same act for 20 years. They could get by. Jay Leno never cut an album. Why did he never cut an album? How come he never did a comedy special? Because I can use that same material at colleges. He used to work like 300 and something nights a year doing 2 colleges a night and everything. I can use that material over and over again. Now people go to see the headline, and it's the same stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And now they're putting comedy on every show on TV too. Now you got everything, so I can stay home and watch these comedians. And now you go and see the repetition. Now people are coming up that really aren't paying their dues. We had all these guys that labored at all these clubs for 10, 20 years, and now, oh God, I go to see him. He's polished. He's a great comedian. But now I'm seeing these other guys, and they're a little raw. And so now they started to diminish, and now the clubs started to go downhill and everything. And unfortunately, there aren't as many open mic places around anymore and everything. And it goes in cycles.
Well, Route 1 has, of course, you go to Giggles at the Prince. There's a Prince Pizza place.
And the Kowloon across the street.
Well, do you think it would be interesting if there was a comedy club inside, like the Cabaret or the Golden Banana? How do you think that would work?
You don't think Jay Leno started out doing when there weren't the venues around? Jay Leno started doing shows in between like strippers and stuff like that. He tells stories about getting cigarette butts thrown at him and stuff like that.
I didn't know that.
That would be I don't think you'd want to. Plus, it can't.
In fact, Mitch, my friend, who the airline, the Navy pilot, who is a comedian and one of my very dear friends, he was with me at a show the other night, and the woman came up to me and said, Paul, remember me? I remember when you used to go out with that stripper from the Banana. I used to do the microphone. Oh, I remember you. You fancied yourself to be a bit of a comedian yourself too, but nobody listened. And now next dance, they're doing like a joke, and nobody was like a bunch of guys with cigarettes.
Oh, jeez,
that's great.
So I don't. That would not work.
Thank you.
You know, because listen, when you do a comedy show, the funny thing about comedy, you do a comedy show. If you got a bar in the room where you're doing the comedy show, and there's some people at the bar, and there's only like 6 people at the bar who aren't paying attention, and they're talking in the back. It's like a little mosquito in your ear. You're hearing that in the back. You need people. You got to get people's attention. You can't have the things that divert people's attention away from them, because you want people to listen to what you're saying. You can listen. You can have a band on stage, and you can still be having a conversation, still being enjoying the music. Comedy, you got to be listening to what you're saying. If you got things going on and there's distraction, things like that, you got to go with no clothes on.
Indeed.
I mean, really.
That's why Zanies and Second City was so great, because they packed everybody in. I mean, elbow to elbow, and they had these great waitresses come out with drinks, and that's it. That was it. That was always a great spot to go to.
Do you prefer small rooms or big rooms?
It depends. The funny thing about comedy is the variable is the venue and the circumstances. So many things make a difference. I did a big corporate convention in Florida about a year ago, and it went so incredibly well. And the people, this is great. Will you come back next month? We're gonna have the same situation, same setup, same hotel, everything, but it's gonna be all different people here. I go back a month later, and the reaction isn't quite as good. What's the matter? I step off the stage and I see the woman who's the corporate whatever coordinator yelling at the people with the lighting department. They never turn the lights down. Now, when you do a corporate show, you're surrounded by your bosses, your co-workers, your clients, your potential clients, everything. When you shut that light down, you become anonymous, and you can be more yourself. When you have an operating room atmosphere and it's bright lights, it's antiseptic and everything like that, people get uptight.
Yeah.
And I go, oh, that was the difference between.
Yeah,
it was just the matter. So, a comedian, I'm not being a diva, but if you got a spotlight, it will help the show because it directs your attention to that person.
Yeah.
Even having an elevated stage.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it makes you easier to see and everything. So when you say a small room or a big room, you know, if you got a big room with a small crowd, it sucks.
Yeah.
You got a big room with a big crowd, it's great. You got a small room with a small crowd, you might be able to make it work. It depends on so many things, you know. It depends on the setup. It depends on what happened that day. You could have the same club, and you could do 7 nights in a row in the same club, and every night is like it's a different club. It's a different makeup of people.
How does that give you any sense of stability in your mind when you go home and Monday was great, Tuesday wasn't great?
You know what? You make up stability by working on your act, by smoothing out those highs and lows.
Once you put yourself in those situations over and over again, like you've done, you're able to adjust to the circumstance that's at hand, or do you adjust to speed and whatever it is?
I tell community. I go back to this again about teaching. I said every experience is a good experience if you learn from it.
Yeah.
If you have the worst, if the worst possible thing happens, at least you learn not to do that. Yeah. You know. And it's like when I was a lawyer, when a judge yelled at you about something in front of the courtroom, in front of a jury, in front of a gallery of people, and if you do it right, you get a little pat in the back. If he yells at you in front of those people, wow, I will never do that again. You learn your lesson. You do a comedy room, you know, and every circumstance you're in, as long as you learn from it, even if you did it wrong, you go, well, I'm not going to do that again. You do a corporate show and there's 500 people there, and all of a sudden the mic goes out.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? How are you going to handle that? All right, I'm going to put the mic down and I'm going to project out to these people and I'll walk among them or whatever. And then the next time it happens, you don't panic because, I've been there before. Yeah. You know, so all these different experiences, so many variables and everything like that, the more you do, the more different experiences you have, the better you can adapt because you're gonna run into similar circumstances somewhere else, you know?
I've heard some comedians say that there are certain tricks, like some comedians will play, if there's a drunk table, they'll play to the drunk table because they're the most likely to laugh, and maybe that's contagious. Do you use any tricks or gimmicks like that?
I probably do and don't even realize it, you know? If there's a drunk table, I ignore them. I try to ignore them.
Really?
Yeah. I don't want to do... you know, when I had my own show at Nick's, I used to force myself to do crowd work. 20 minutes every night. I said, I'm going to do crowd work just to do... People think they can just do crowd work, but crowd work, like even a Robin Williams, everyone, he's totally spontaneous. Yeah. He's totally improvised. No. He had ideas and he had a skeleton, and he might go off on tangents, and if it works, great. And if it doesn't work, I can come back to this. Yeah. I used to say... you have no idea how much preparation it takes to be spontaneous.
Yes.
And so a lot of those things, you know, working with the crowd, it's like, what do you do? I work in a bank. Oh, geez, I had another guy who worked in a bank, and I got a joke about that. And so it looks like you just came off the top of your head. Sometimes you do. And if it works, well, guess what? You'll use that again the next time somebody works in the bank. So the crowd work... some guys thrive on crowd work. That's what they do. That's the basis of their act. Mike McDonald, Jim McHugh, those guys, Vinny Ferrio, they work with the crowd and everything. I can do that. In fact, one time I did a show at the Kowloon, and it was a packed house, and Michelle, who was the manager, said, "Oh my God, you did like half the show crowd work. I've never heard you do that before." I said, "I just felt like doing it tonight." She goes, "I didn't even know you did that." I said, "Well, I used to, and I just got... I tried to get good at it in case I ever needed to do that, to be in that situation." And there you go back to your thing about adapting to the situation. All right, the crowd's out of control. The crowd, nobody's paying attention. Okay, I'm going to start saying, and I don't pick on people when I would do that. I would say, you know, hey, where are you from? Or what do you do? Maybe this will get me off on a tangent. Yeah. And I'm not picking on you, but I'm using you as a conduit to go off into something else. Yeah. So it's also what you guys were discussing about adapting to the situation. So some guys do the crowd work. I got too much to say now. I don't want. The other night there was some girl at the front. Oh my God, and she wouldn't shut up. I just like plowed through over her until she just was like got so obnoxious that at the point I just like called her out, and now I said, okay, look it, and the crowd knew now. Now I get the crowd on my chin. Sometimes you don't want to come across like a bully.
Yeah.
You don't want to come across, I got the mic, I'm a bully. And sometimes I've seen guys do that where they turn the crowd against them. Wait a second, you know?
Yeah.
But now you go, look it, I've asked you to shut up like 9 times. These people paid money to see the show, right? They didn't pay money to hear you yelling out incoherent stuff and stuff like that. And now the crowd goes, yeah, he's right. Yeah. I worked hard for this ticket, you know? I came here. I don't want. She's ruining my experience.
Yeah.
You know. And now they turn on her, and she'll shut up.
That's a good way.
So you want to do. My dad told me that a long time ago, and he gave me some good advice sometime. And he said, never alienate the people you're trying to win over, which is good. But if they get so bad that you go, well, you know, okay, this guy's not picking on them. He's giving them more than enough chances to shut up.
Yeah.
I've never seen on. Just looking and listening and watching on YouTube and other things, I've never seen a heckler end up looking really well. Usually it gets pretty damn ugly. And a heckler is not used to the big stage.
Well, I'm going to tell you something, too. You're talking about the club business and what the business is now. I do the Kowloon, I do Giggles, and at time to time I do other comedy clubs. I'm asked all the time, and I turn down. I actually lose money to work the comedy club. I work Kowloon and Giggles because I've been working it for 30 years, and it's 5 minutes from my house. And people say, "Where can we go see you?" Oh, you got a fundraiser, I got a corporate thing. Here, I'm going to be at Giggles this week. So I alternate each month with them. But doing those places are policed well because they're good comedy clubs and stuff. And when you do the corporate shows, you do the conventions, you do the fundraisers, you don't get the drunks. You don't get the hecklers. You don't get I don't have that much.
Yeah.
You really don't get that. And that's, I don't see that as much. I mean, I'm sure there's some raunchy clubs you get the hecklers and stuff like that, but I don't miss it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Heckler's like putting seasoning on your cooking. You know, you put pepper on this. Okay, you help the show. You know, but now you empty a whole pound of pepper in there, you just ruin the show. So, I mean, hecklers, you know, up to a point you can enhance the show. At what point are you taking away from the show? You know, so that comes from experience, too, of handling that.
Yeah.
Do you ever just not feel like writing or get writer's block or just I'm just not into it today, but have to kick your own ass?
Creativity comes and goes. I don't think you can force it. That's why I tell people, look, and I tell you, I'm going back again to teaching comedians. Look at when you're on a creative role, go with it, man. Sit down, write down every thought you have and stuff. Because then the next week you might have no new ideas. But when you have no new ideas, now this is the time to go sit at your desk and go look at all those notes you made the week before,
to get inspired,
and take this thing and rewrite it and put this thing. Last night, it's fun. It's an inexact science because I talked to Mitch on the way over here. In fact, I was talking to him and I got on 93 North by mistake because I was paying attention to talking to him. Like, oh, geez, I'm heading the wrong way. I was thinking I was going to that show I was at last week, and I said last night I do this whole thing on the dog and walking the dog and picking up the dog poop, and it's like a 5-minute bit now, and I did a thing last night. I said, Mitch, I said this, and I sometimes I do this for Mitch like an example. I said, learn from me, because every time I tell Mitch some kind of recommendation, I go, I'm telling you because I told myself. Whatever I say to you, I'm telling myself 10 times more, right? I said, it's so weird. I said, sometimes you get this joke, oh, this is a great joke, and then you try it and it falls flat. It doesn't mean maybe that the joke was bad. Maybe you didn't deliver it right. Maybe the wording was wrong, but maybe it needs work. It doesn't mean it's a bad idea, but it just didn't work. And then other times you say something and you go, oh, well, that's funny. I didn't realize. So last night I threw out some stuff about the dog, and it was just an idea I had when I was walking the dog, and I threw it out, and I didn't have it prepared and everything, but the crowd laughed. I go, oh. So I stayed up to 3 a.m. writing that joke. I go, this has potential. And it was about the and I said I try to do I try to be good about picking up after the dog, but sometimes he goes in a place where
okay
I
with
don't know.
it being
Do I
there?
need to put? And I said, I wish like an NFL referee would come out and say, the man with the small white dog has challenged the poop pickup. The matter is now under review. And then he comes back. He says, after further review,
From New York,
and I had to do all the hand signals, with the thing. After further review, this is a wooded area. Nobody walks here. I pointed to my shoe. Nobody walks here. It was really small. He says, after further review, I waved it off. This is a no pickup zone. You may proceed without shame, and please back away from the windows. Something I don't know what I did, but I was rewriting it last night, and I still don't know it. I'll have to practice. But I just kind of did it spontaneously, just the idea, and I did it totally wrong. But the people were laughing. I go, okay, that has potential. So even after 30 years, you don't know. There's a formula, but there isn't a formula.
yeah.
But Jesus, what a brilliant algorithm that would be, because there's a whole universe of things around people who have dogs.
Oh,
Jesus,
yes.
So is that how your mind always works now? Were you actually walking your dog at all?
I walk that dog, and I come back to my girlfriend. Give me a piece of paper. Give me a piece of paper.
So this is the impetus, is really the walking.
Yeah. Well, like when I come home from the dog last week, and I picked up the poop. I was very proud of myself that I picked up the poop, and I'm carrying it back like I bagged a deer or something. I went I tied it to the leash like I tie a moose to the hood of my car. And we were crossing a busy street, and I dropped the bag with the poop, and I went back to get it, and the car hit its brakes and swerved. I almost got killed for a bag of poop.
Yeah.
And I said, oh my God, the obituary, idiot dies trying to retrieve a bag full of. And I don't know. I said, so I'll find a way to make that funny sometime. But I had to go write it down. But I'm walking the dog, and I'm thinking of all this stuff.
What you should do is walk around the street with your dog and a large, hefty bag of trash.
No. I tell them when I don't want to pick it up, this is what I do. I go right before I walk the dog. I go to Dunkin' Donuts. I get a cup of coffee and 3 chocolate Dunkin' Munchkins. I put the chocolate Dunkin' Munchkins in a clear plastic bag, and I walk around with it. It looks like I got a big poop in the bag. All the neighbors think I'm a hero, and when I get home, I get a little snack. Yeah. So I'm all set.
It's
Maybe
funny
a crawler.
You mentioned it because I
used to say crawler, but it's a small dog. And I changed it to Dunkin' Munchkins. I might go back to crawler. I don't know. See, this is funny because I have these conversations with my girlfriend. I said, imagine somebody listening in on our conversation. Should I call the dog's poop a crawler or a Dunkin' Munchkins?
Right. It's so funny. It's funny you said it because I've got a dog, and
I might do crawler tonight, Jay. I'm writing it down. Crawler.
Good, nice.
Crawler, chocolate crawler.
So early in the morning, I jog with my dog. So I call it jogging. I'm just lumbering forward in pain, and the dog is walking, but I
maintaining
call it jogging.
balance.
Right. I'm wearing jogging material. So the way I know that for sure that my dog's gonna actually shit when we're out there.
Can you say shit?
I don't know.
I'm
If
listening.
we can. I don't know.
I've been saying poop like this, like I'm like
the way I
I'm
know for
little Lord
sure
Fauntleroy over here. The poop and the a-hole. I can say those things. Yeah.
The way I know that she's going to is if I'm 10 blocks from home and I forgot to bring bags. Then I know she's going.
I've done the fake poop pickup before.
Oh yeah, totally.
Oh yeah,
because then you're eating the night.
someone else's.
I write this. I have never. And then sometimes you get these things. I go, I don't have it right, but maybe someday I'll have it right. The Academy Awards, the best actor for Big is Paul D'Angelo for his role in that lady's looking out the window.
Yeah,
I'll pick up the dry one next.
Performance of but the bag broke. Everybody, I'm not.
You're out there. Yeah, that's why I need the referee.
What's that thing that we promised ourselves we'd get back to before we wrap up here?
We talked about
were we drinking beer or something? Was that what it was at the beginning?
Yeah, you said that. No, I forget what
it
he
was.
What was that?
We were talking about drinking.
Right before we went on air.
Yes, and we said we must remember.
Yeah.
You asked me if I drank before I went on stage.
And I said
comedians
the most comedians I find a lot of comedians used to drink, but
used to drink. Yeah.
Don't.
Oh yeah. Oh no. Days ago. Oh God. I could make a list of comedians that do coke and drink and smoke and everything. I won't do it. I'll have a drink after the show.
Yeah. But you'd be doing probably a disservice to the writing, I assume, if you did. But not that most people. If you're drinking, you probably.
I went on stage. I went on stage a couple times. I had a couple hits off a joint. Actually, I did very well.
Really?
Yeah, I slowed down a little. I actually had a good time. I don't know if the people did.
It was an hour and a half.
I had a pretty good time, but I take it too serious. I take it too serious. I won't even have a beer before the show. And that all started because I actually did a show, two shows in a row where the microphone went out and I lost my voice. And I had to go to voice therapy and stuff like that. And they said that the alcohol dried out your voice, so I just had gotten the habit of not having a drink before the show.
All right, Paul D'Angelo. It is pdangelo.com, pdangelo.com. What do you have coming up?
I got a lot of stuff on Facebook too. Look at my Facebook fan page. It's probably they got to be about 30 videos in there.
You're super aggressive on Facebook now. I remember
I have a girl,
7 or 8
Charlene,
years
who does
ago.
my.
Yeah.
She does all my stuff. I give her the content, and she posts. She's she's almost too good. I want you to do this. I go, no. I feel like a whore. I can't. Please. And I just can't. And I don't do any person. My girlfriend says, you never mention me. I said, my mom got cancer. Well, and I didn't ever put it on Facebook. That's my friends know that.
Yeah.
I just keep it totally business. It's just business.
Always a good idea.
And stuff like that. But I try to do the. In fact, I'm going to do another book of memes. I almost got 200 memes that are all short jokes. I don't know how I'm going to present it. I'm going to do that as a book too. But what's coming up? I'm someplace different every week. My schedule's on my website. This new book, I'm excited about this new book, this L.A. Miserables book.
Yeah,
to come out because it's so damn funny. It's because I'm kind of psyched about it, and at the end of it, it says to be continued. Yeah. So I'll probably release maybe. I started reading the second one; it was just as funny as the first. So I'll probably release maybe 2, maybe 3. I'll have to read it and see if it stays consistent. I really got a high standard. So this book I was reading it, and I go, I can't believe this will stay funny. But it did.
Yeah, that's great.
So the second one, I'll go through it and stuff like that and try to put that out too. So that'll be out soon.
Are you still a member of the bar?
I was going to ask that, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what's so funny? Yeah, because I bought a bar overseas. I send $300 every year. Now people go, do you go to like the continuing education? If you teach yoga, you got to go to continuing education. If you're a plumber, if you're real estate, you got to go to courses and everything. The only ones that don't have to do that is a lawyer. Lawyers should be the first people because the law changes all the time. But you know why they don't? Because all the legislators are lawyers.
Of course.
And they want to go back to their practice and they don't want to have to go back. So that's the one thing you don't have to have continuing education. Now people call me up, Paul, I heard you were the best defense attorney. I want you to represent me. I go, would you go to a doctor who hasn't operated in 20 years? I said the laws changed and everything now. You don't want me to be a lawyer. Plus I don't want to be a lawyer. I don't want to deal with you. Nobody ever called me when they're having a good day. Yeah. Paul, I'm having a great day. I want to hire you. No, I'm messing around. You're getting divorced. I got arrested. I'm in jail.
I want to move into your house.
At least if you're going to do 10 to 20, or if your lawyer did a brilliant set right before that, it would be a nice send-off. You know?
Yeah.
All right, pdangelo.com. Paul D'Angelo, thank you so much, my friend. This is hilarious.
Hey, can I tell you something? You guys are great because I really had enjoyed this. This is really fun. Thank you so much.
Man. This is great.
Very fun.
No, I don't like that much. No, I'm kidding.
All right,
thanks for having me on.
Thank you. I should have did more reading.com. We'll see y'all later.